Thanks for taking time to listen to this episode of the Real ResQ podcast. Take a minute to go to therealresq.com to check out these and other great deals from our sponsors here at the Real ResQ. This episode of the Real ResQ podcast is brought to you by Breeze Eastern, the world's only dedicated helicopter hoist and winch provider. Axness, because when lives are at stake and conditions are challenging, clear communication is of the utmost importance. Life Saving Systems Corporation. We do our work so you can do yours. Tough gear for tough jobs. And SR3 ResQ Concepts, because you don't know what you don't know. Breeze Eastern. They dedicate themselves to our helicopter rescue world. Since the very first helicopter rescue in November of 1945, Breeze Eastern has designed and manufactured superior rescue hoist solutions. While much of the technology and the unique mission requirements have changed over the past 75 years, their commitment to the rescuers, the operators, and those being rescued has not. Contact them today by visiting them at breeze-eastern.com. The Axness PNG wireless ICS system can bring cutting-edge wireless intercommunication system technology to any aircraft. The PNG system can be fully integrated into an existing ICS system or can be carried on and off as a mobile base station. They can go anywhere at any time on any aircraft. Plus, with the strongest and most robust waterproof handheld on the market, this system can take a hit and keep working. Their wireless intercom systems are designed to enhance situational awareness through improved communication capability. This system brings superior noise canceling technology to eliminate rotor wash and engine noise from your ICS. The Axness PNG wireless system is currently deployed in more than 1,800 public safety, air ambulance, and search and rescue aircrafts worldwide. I have personally used the Axness system in 4 different countries and on 5 different airframes. It is awesome. If you want more information, contact them today at axness.com. That's AXNES.com. You just make sure you tell them Quinn sent me. Life Saving Systems Corporation. They manufacture the world's toughest helicopter rescue gear. From my favorite harness as a rescueman, the Triton harness, to the rescue baskets, the litters, and of course, the most popular hook in all helicopters, the D-Lock. The team at LSC will cut, bend, sew, weld, and machine these products into existence every day. We do our work so you can do yours. LSC. Tough gear for tough jobs. Check them out today at lifesavingsystems.com and follow them on Instagram at Rescue Gear. That's at ResQGEAR. And SR3 ResQ Concepts is a training company that can help with your helicopter training, a standardization and safety check, or maybe just an audit or an FAA refresher. They are here to bring your agency up to date with the most current techniques, rules, regulations, and equipment. The training staff is awesome. With the certified flight instructor pilots, experienced crew members, which I am happy to say that I am one of them, they offer training in rescue, medical, tactical, firefighting, ground operations, and night vision goggle use. SR3 is also partnered with Petzl to assist with personal protective equipment and the highly specific Lazard. SR3 also goes beyond the helicopter world as they provide high-angle rescue training and tactical medicine training. Contact them today at sr3rescueconcepts.com or over on Instagram at sr3_rescue. Up next, we are joined by another U.S. Navy rescue swimmer. The cool part about this story is he talks about 2 guys that punched out of a F-14 Tomcat, landed in the water, and he had to go get them. It is incredible. I'm super stoked to have him on, so please welcome Mr. Harry Knight. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ. Oh, buddy, I got another Navy rescue swimmer coming at you. Man, it's starting to, you guys are coming out of the woodworks right now. It's going to be like a little Coast Guard swimmer and Navy swimmer, little battle. Come on, Mr.
Navy.
Harry Knight.
Hey, morning, Quinn, man. Navy's got to represent. How you doing today, man?
I am awesome. You guys are doing really well at the moment. I think I'm getting more calls from you guys than my own boys.
I'll have to start word more so we get more because you guys are still up there in numbers.
I don't know about that. I think you might have a few more in numbers than we have, but man,
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, I'll tell you, man, thank you for coming on. And you and I have been emailing back and forth, and I'm excited to hear some of the stories that you have, and definitely the award. You got a killer award that I'm going to get into. But before we go that far, man, you know the drill. Give a little background about you, how you got into the Navy, and how you became a rescue swimmer.
Yeah, so like I said, my name's Harry. I'm originally from Baltimore, so go O's. We already had that.
Go Red Sox.
Okay. What's that? You're breaking up from over.
Sorry. Red Sox. Red Sox.
Going through a tunnel.
Go.
Originally from Baltimore. My dad and stepdad were both Army, so we moved around a whole lot. When I was 17 years old, my stepdad, we were stationed in Fort Hood, Texas, Killeen, Texas, Central Texas, and anybody who's been there knows it's flat, dry, and it's a big Army town. So I knew Central Texas was not the place for this guy. So, me and a buddy of mine, we went to the Navy recruiter, said, hey, want to join the Navy? And he goes, well, you're only 17. This is what you'll need. I'm like, that's fine. I can get signatures on a form for you. So we looked at some different options, and he was an H-46 guy. He was a rescue swimmer and a flight mechanic.
Nice.
So I said, hey, I want to fly helicopters, be a rescue swimmer. He goes, are you good in the water? I said, I'm pretty good, I think. So he goes, well, these are the different options, the different ratings you get. And a lot of them were related to being a mechanic. Either you're an AD, which is a power plants guy, work on the engines, or you're an airframer. So I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not really big on mechanics. I can turn a wrench, I can turn a screwdriver, but I'm not too big of a mechanic. I said, what's this AW thing? He goes, oh, you track submarines. I'm like, that's kind of interesting. How do they do that? He goes, well, learn about it in school. I can't tell you anything about it because I don't know. I said, okay, I'll pick that rating. So me and my buddy, we picked the same rating. He chose to go the P3 Navy, which is the fixed wing, and I wanted to go helicopter. So, graduated high school early, January of 81, 2 days before my mom and brother's birthday, which ironically, both their birthdays were yesterday. My mom keeps reminding me about the day I got on the bus leaving Killeen, Texas, 2 days before my birthday. As we all know, there's things that stay in your head and they will never leave. And that was one of the things, seeing my mom and brothers. But again, it's time for me to go. So get to Texas, 17 years old. And back then, that's when the company commanders, they were allowed to get in your face. So went through boot camp in Orlando, Florida, went to Naval Air Crewman School in Pensacola, Florida. And basically there, if you wanted to go swimmer, if you're good in the water, you would continue that route. And I was good, because when I lived in Vermont in middle school, I was part of the recreational swim team and stuff like that. So did get in the water, got done with air crew school, went to the AW technical school, which at the time was in Millington, Tennessee, where they teach you all the basics about using radar, using sonobuoys, for tracking the submarines and stuff like that. Then I was off to my helicopter training command out in North Island, out in San Diego. And then, the beginning of the command there, you first go through rescue swimmer school. So again, 18 years old, being where they had the PT ground was outside the base clinic. I think they did that for. There's a small triangle. They
absolutely do that for a reason.
I think they did because there were several times people were kind of like hobbling over to the clinic. So, the rescue swimmer school, ironically at the time, two of the senior instructors were Navy SEALs, and it was their shore duty. So, thought I was good in the water, was okay, got better. because as you know, it's a lot of it's similar to what the Coast Guard did as far as getting you ready in the water. So it's pretty intense. So got done with rescue swimmer school, went back to the training command to finish getting certified as a crewman in the helicopter. I flew in the Navy SH-2, and back in the day, and any of my old folks that are listening to it, is made by Cayman Aerospace, and back in the 80s, unfortunately, it was nicknamed the Cayman Killer because they were old helicopter, and there were a lot of mishaps, mechanical failure, pilot failure, but that was their given nickname. So any of my old Navy buddies that are listening, they'll be able to relate to that.
They're all nodding right there, like, oh yeah. Me, I'm looking at it like, what is this helicopter? Oh, I'm just kidding. I at least know what it is.
Yeah. So got done with the training command, then went across the street to my seagoing squadron, which was HSL 35. Our nickname was the Magicians. And I did sea duty and shore duty there, and I enjoyed it. It was probably, out of my 20 years in the Navy, I was there almost 9 years, and it was probably the best 9 years of my Navy career. And then from there, I was moving on to the H-60 Bravos were coming out in the Navy fleet. I was going through training there. Unfortunately, I had some vision problems, got diagnosed with glaucoma, which because of tunnel vision, you can't be a rescue swimmer looking for water when you've got tunnel vision. So had to hang up the rescue gear and got swapped over to flying in the P-3 patrol plane for my last 10 years in the Navy. So.
Dang, that's still a pretty killer career, man. That's pretty awesome.
I did some deployments. I had, one thing I can say, whether I was in helicopters or P-3s, I had the luxury of every time I deployed, because I was a West Coast guy, every time I deployed, I had the luxury of going to Australia, which was awesome down there. The land down.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I can't complain one bit. And I got to see a lot of things in my Navy career that a lot of people don't, know. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Man, that's awesome. What a great career. I mean, it's actually kind of cool. You just did, half your career in helicopters and the other half in fixed wing. Sounds like a lot of pilots I know.
Yeah. It's funny. I've got the license plate on my truck has got H2 H60 P3. And so there was some guy on the base where I work at. He goes, "You were an AW, weren't you?" I said, "How could you tell?" He goes, "Your license plate," because nobody else does those kind of platform jumpings unless you're an AW. So
that's awesome. Nice.
But I enjoyed it.
That's fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, so after you graduated swimmer school, what was your very first rescue? Or you had actually a couple of anyway, go. Yeah, this is your show. What am I doing? Go.
Nah, so I mean, listen to your podcast. A lot of these guys had big ones. I had what I thought was one big one. There was a couple of minor things, people that fell overboard on the pulling out of the port in San Diego and things like that. So, they just fell over. They were like 20 feet behind the ship. We were already hovering around, so it was just either drop. We drop the horse collar, pick them up, and drop them back on the ship. So there's like, yeah, okay, thanks, whatever. Some of these people. Is back in the day, it was some of these guys' way in the Navy, I think, is their way of getting out of going on deployment. They jump overboard and hopefully nobody finds them. Is what they seems to be there was a trend of that back in the day. Let's put it that way.
Oh, geez.
So other than that, those are just some little things that led to the one that I was pretty proud of and I thought was pretty significant in my career.
And I'll tell you what, and you and I were talking about this a little bit because I'm going to read this here in a second. I like this write-up. And the reason I like this write-up is because it's vague. And that's one of the differences that I've seen between like Navy write-ups and right now Coast Guard write-ups. Coast Guard puts a little sparkle on it. They make it sound all woo. And Navy's like, "Good job, you did your job. Go back to the line."
Yeah, that's pretty much how it was sometimes. That's pretty much how it was sometimes.
That's funny. I was digging it. So I'll tell you what, let me read this and then I'm looking forward to hearing the backstory. So here we go. The Secretary of the Navy takes pleasure in presenting the Navy Commendation Medal to Aviation Anti-Submarine Warfare Operator 3rd Class Harry Oliver Knight, United States Navy, for service as set forth in the following citation. For heroic achievement as an air crewman attached to the Helicopter Anti-Submarine Squadron, Light 8:35 on 4 September 1984. Petty Officer Knight was flying in a TG-31, an SH-2F helicopter, on the night when a mission of an aircraft was unexpectedly called upon to carry out a rescue at sea. Petty Officer Knight made immediate preparations for 2 survivors. During the search, equipment failure required Petty Officer Knight to function as the pilot's reference for a stable hover. His professionalism and outstanding knowledge of the aircraft systems and rescue techniques, plus his timely actions, were instrumental in saving the lives of 2 pilots. Petty Officer Knight's textbook performance on a night with low visibility and fraught with numerous hazards reflected greatly upon himself and was in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. Harry, it's big, but 2 guys in the water, and I'm only thinking like 2 guys just had to punch out, and they're calling you, oh, buddy, okay. You know, wait a minute, let me say one more thing here, because it needs to be recognized. Not only did you earn this Navy Commendation Medal, another couple of days later, you got a letter from an appreciation from the commanding officer of the fighter squadron. In addition to that, you earned a safety award. And in addition to that, you guys were recognized, your whole crew was recognized in the local paper there at the naval base. That's awesome. Yep. So you guys really got recognized for this. So I'm really excited about hearing the backstory to this. So Tag, cool. You are it.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny, you know, my 20-year career and 24 hours was the highlight of it. But yeah, it was, you know, so again, you know, flying in the helicopter, a lot of stuff we did was tracking submarines. So off the coast of San Diego, kind of off the coast between San Diego and Los Angeles, there's an island. It's San Clemente Island. Well, on the west side of that island, they have what they had, you know, an ASW range, anti-submarine warfare range, where submarines would go out there so they could practice their stuff and we can practice our stuff. So it was an evening training flight. We were out there. There was a H-3 helicopter from the base. They were out on the range, and this is when the H-60 Bravos were just coming out to the Navy fleet. So there was a helicopter from HSL-41, which was the H-60 training command. So all 3 of us were out there doing our stuff, you know, tracking the submarine and everything. And the helicopter I flew in, the H-2, you know, we only had a 2.5 hour, you know, endurance for fuel, and getting out there alone was a good 45 minutes or so. So we're out on the range. We had to refuel. So we go back to San Clemente Island and we're refueling. And at the time, you know, back in the day, the H-46 crewmen, they had the long ICS cords, the walk around cords we took, you know, that they had, so they could be talking to the pilots while they're refueling, doing stuff. It was after that night I learned that, well, Air Crewman Harry Knight wants to have one of those, because we had to do sign language like you and me started out this glorious. So we're out there, we're hot pumping. And when we did it in our helicopter, we closed the door for where the pilots were, just in case there was any incident. It prevented any flashbacks or anything. So it's nighttime. The guys were fueling the helicopter. I always did my walk around to the helicopter, because I just, looking for leaks. And again, any of my old H2 buddies, they know if it wasn't leaking, it was empty. So we're walking around doing our thing. And the pilot was trying to get my attention, apparently. And I didn't see him waving at me because it's, nighttime. So he finally took his flashlight out and flashed it at me. I'm like, okay. So I open up, get hooked up to the ICS. He goes, hey, as soon as we get done filling up, they've got an F-14 that ditched in the water, and we're the only helicopter they could get a hold of. I'm like, really? So at this, I was
Hold on. I know that expression because I've had that. What? You did what?
Yeah. They're calling us. I mean, as you know, the Navy, as well as the Coast Guard, if you're a helicopter, one of your side jobs is search and rescue. That's just part of the job. But I'm like, they're calling us. I said, there's an H-3 out on the range. He goes, yeah, but they're below the island. They can't get in touch with them on the air traffic controllers can't get in touch with them. I'm like, okay, well, how much more gas we need? He goes, we're almost done. I'm like, okay. So we get done fueling. We get in there, we take off, and where the guys were. So there was an E-2 Hawkeye, which is, when I explain it to people, it's the airplane that's got the big radome on top that goes on the carrier that, kind of tracks everything in the area. And they just happened to be out on a training flight. And there was a crew from, it was VF 211. I believe they're called the Fighting Checkmates back then, F-14, the good old Tom Cruise Top Gun type jet, for people that don't understand, different types of aircraft. They had an engine malfunction, and they had to put, they shut one engine down, then the other engine failed on them. So they had to punch out, as we were saying. So they were in the water, and the E-2 Hawkeye got their emergency distress beacon. So they were making contact, with, I think, like Los Angeles Tower, San Diego Control and stuff like that. And that's how, the people on San Clemente Island, their air traffic controllers got a hold of us. So they were the only people that we had communications with, was the E-2 Hawkeye. They kind of gave us a vector to go en route. So we started heading that way. They had us on their radar. They were bringing us in. So again, September of '84. So mind you, I was 20 years old. So as you can relate, and I'm sure everybody else has been in the first case, as you guys like to call it.
Yeah.
My adrenaline was pumping. I'm like, okay, this is cool. One thing I will wish that was done to me, one of your guys, I think it was your first Coast Guard swimmer, he talked about how he had guys practice getting into their gear in the back of the helicopter.
Oh, yeah.
I wish that was something that we had done, because the helicopter I flew in was small. When we were configured for tracking submarines, we had what's called a sonobuoy launcher in there. So we had my seat, and we had a single collapsible troop seat, and that was about it. There was no room. So it was nighttime. It was like 10 o'clock at night. The discussion we had, as far as the crew coordination, was the issue we had was the radar altimeter on the helicopter was broke, which meant technically we were down for nighttime SAR. We could do a daytime SAR, but as you know, the rad out, that's what keeps the pilot in that hover he wants, whether it's 50 feet, 60 feet. So it was down. So technically we were down for nighttime SAR. I believe the pilot, the Lieutenant Commander Cummings, experienced pilot. The co-pilot was Lieutenant Arnold, I believe was his name, who's an experienced pilot as well. Then you had Harry the Nugget crewman in the back. So we had discussion. We had a long discussion about, okay, can we do this? Technically, we can't, but can we go out there and at least circle them so they know help's on the way? I'm like, we can do that. And then the discussion came, since the radar altimeter was down, that Lieutenant Arnold, once we were to give it in the hover, his sole job would be to look at the altitude for Lieutenant Commander Cummings. So we're like, well, we can try that, and if it seems like it's too rough out there and he couldn't keep a steady hover, then we would just circle them. That way they know there's at least help on the way. So we're like, okay, that's the game plan. So the helicopter I flew in was a single crewman helicopter. So, the Coast Guard, you guys got your flight mechanic and got you as a rescue swimmer, each have a job. Well, in our helicopter, the H-2 and like the Navy H-60 Bravos, you're kind of combined. Both those skills were combined into one. So I was a air crewman and a rescue swimmer all in one. Back in the day, the helicopter I flew in, we didn't have the Stokes litter. We didn't have a rescue basket. We didn't have those things. Our rescue kit was basically a parachute bag that had the quick splice in it in case we had a cable malfunction, the horse, some blankets, a basic medical kit and stuff like that. It wasn't until several years later that the true rescue kit came around. So the chances of me going to the water were slim. And if I did go in the water, I was staying there till somebody else came, because there's no way they would. There's nobody else that, they couldn't have hoisted us up. So they said, hey, worst case scenario, we're going to put you in the water, as long as we know somebody's coming. I said, hey, we do what we got to do. So I said, okay, I'm going to be off ICS. I'm going to get in my wetsuit. So I still remember to this day, the adrenaline that was going through me. So I took off my helmet, my SV2, flight suit, flight boots, the whole 9 yards. I had to get down to the skivvies to get my wetsuit on. And I was taking stuff and throwing it towards the back part of the helicopter. What I didn't realize was in the helicopter I was in, we had the tunnel. So we had a crash curtain that we kept up in flight. So if there was a ditching at sea, it wouldn't suck us into the tunnel and trap us back there. Well, when we got back from the flight, I'm kind of gathering all my gear. One of my flight boots had gone through the crash curtain, was in the tunnel. So I'm like, where's my other boot? I mean, I came with 2 boots. Where's my second boot? So when I was doing my post flight, I look and it was back in the tunnel. I was like, okay, I guess I was a little excited to get this thing going. So get my gear on, get my helmet back on, get on ICS. And they said, hey, the E2 circling them. They're giving us a vector to get into them. But apparently, a lot of their emergency equipment wasn't working, or it had, exceeded its life capacity at the time. So we got closer. We did hear them on their PRC 90, old school radio, 243.
Yeah, buddy. I know it only too well. Freaking thing.
Yeah.
Click on.
Yeah.
So it's off. Click, click, click. 3 channels. 121.5, 243. And I don't remember the third one. Shoot. Sorry, guys.
One of them had the beacon option, and that's where the E2 was getting them. So we're going in. The E2 was circling around, giving us a vector in. So they're basically, saying, they should be at your 1 to 2 o'clock. So I'm sitting in the door looking, and it was nighttime, no horizon, no visibility, nothing whatsoever. So off in the distance, I see a pencil flare go off. I'm like, pilot, got him 1 o'clock. And then that was it. That's all I saw. He goes, you got anything else? I said, nope. I said, but this is where I saw it. Come easy right. And so kind of got him to where I thought the nose of the helicopter was the direction of where the single visible indicator we had of him was. So then we turned on our floodlights, come in there. We saw some debris in the water, saw what definitely looked like, oil slick, the signs of, okay, something went in the water here that wasn't meant to go in the water here.
Yeah.
So off to my side, about my 3 o'clock, I saw the reflection, of a flight helmet, because I know from the Navy, the flight helmet had to be like 80% reflective. Everybody had their little styles, but you had to have reflective paint on there. So I saw that, so I had the pilot stop. I said, come easy right. I'm like, yep, definitely got a helmet. So get the horse collar out. Granted, you guys rescue strap, horse collar, whatever the case may be.
So it's the same piece of gear, just updated terminology. So the horse collar, actually, for everybody back in the day, was a big, cushy, like bulky thing with your webbing that came to 2 V-rings, and that's what connected the hoist up. Then they went into the rescue strap, which was cut out a little bit nicer. LSC did a great job for that. Military only. Authorized to buy it. And then they came to the quick strap, which is a thinner, and then you have a slide friction keeper that comes down to really tighten that up around the chest. So basically it's just been made better.
Yep.
So anyway,
like everything, they improve, they learn, and they make things better.
Yep.
So get the collar down to them. I lower it in the water, drag it over to get rid of the static cling and the static electricity and all that good stuff. Slide it over. I get what looks to be a thumbs up, because again, by then it's like 11 o'clock at night. So I get what I think's the thumbs up from the pilot, bring him up, get him to the door. And he was in there, but he wasn't in there real good. He was backwards. His hip was kind of keeping him in. His lobes that had inflated from his life vest was kind of keeping him in. So get him in the door, get him into my seat, strap him in, just do a quick, get a thumbs up from him. You okay? Because obviously, we can't talk. The back of the helicopter I was in, because where the cabin area was, you're below 2 engines, a main gearbox, a combining gearbox, very noisy helicopter. So thank you for the Navy for disability, for being partially deaf. So I get a thumbs up from him. And he's pointing down. So obviously, I know F-14, there's another person. So go back. We're looking. Took about maybe 5 minutes or so. We had the H2, we had a hover floodlight. Then we had one that the pilots could rotate around. So Lieutenant Commander Cummings, the pilot, he saw him off about at 1 o'clock, about maybe 50 or 60 yards. So we slide over, get him in, send the horse collar back down. get a thumbs up. And with him, I could see he was definitely in there good. So bring him up, get him in, put him in the collapsible troop seat, get him strapped in, close the cabin door, get a thumbs up from them, trying to, again, hollering at each other with the whining of the engine noise. Make sure they're okay. If there's anything significant, broke, bleeding, anything like that, so they seem to be pretty good. So again, by then we're low on fuel. We're, off the coast, somewhere between San Diego and LA, past San Clemente Island. So we're out there a little bit. Yeah. So we're like, well, okay, we either need to land back at San Clemente Island to refuel to get back to North Island there in San Diego. But then in this whole effort, apparently there was a Navy ship, the USS Truxtun, that was in the area, that they had, they were saying, hey, there's people in the water. So they were coming in route as well. But obviously a ship versus helicopter were a little bit faster. Yeah. So we were able to get on the frequency with them to say, hey, we've got the people in the helicopter, but we're going to need some fuel. We're like, our fuel's good, come land, get some fuel. So we go land. So I go tell the pilots, I said, hey, we're going to be landing on the back of a cruiser to get some fuel so we can make it back to North Island. Keep in mind, these are two F-14 guys that just punched out of a jet. They're used to landing on a nice big carrier. And I tell them we're landing on a small boy. So, I open up the door. We had certain procedures when we, in the helicopter I was in, open up the cabin door. We always put the one of the steps out that went up to the gearbox area. So I'm sitting in the door, and so I'm used to it. I've done the landing qualifications with the pilot, so I'm used to landing on the small boys. The pilot, I don't know if it was a pilot or if it was a radar operator, whichever one was in the collapsible troop seat, he's the one that had the best view coming in the ship. So he kind of tapped me on the shoulder, pointing to the ship. I'm like, yeah, that's where we're going to land. And I could see the look in his eyes was like, we're going to land on that, because they don't have a very big flight deck. We're talking a cruiser. This, some of the, different styles of ships had different types of flight decks. Yeah. He just kind of had that look, and I could see he was kind of holding on to the crash. We had like netting behind the troop seat. So, I get it. These guys just punched out, and they were in the water for an hour or so. Now we're going to land on a small boy. Yeah, he wasn't too happy with that. So we land. They chalk and chain us. We start fueling the flights. The ship's doctor, who was like, second class corpsman, comes out, talks to me. Do they need any medical attention? I said, no, they seem to be okay. If they need it, I think we're probably better off getting them back to land, and they can take them to the hospital there. So, okay. So the ship was very nice, gave us all some food. I think it was plain bologna, an apple, and something to drink. So get the ship's typical lunchbox, and we make our way back to heading back to North Island. And it was very common for the crewmen to call our base, while the pilots are calling the tower to come in for the final approach. It was common for us to call the base saying, hey, to let us, so they can let the line crew know we're coming in. And if there's any issues with the helicopters, so they can prepare whichever shop needed to work on it. So we're coming in, we're about, I called them up. I said, Megas 301 Megaspace, we're inbound. We got 2 survivors. And the maintenance chief goes, 2 survivors? I said, yeah, we have 5 on board now. Can you please call, can you ensure the base clinic has an ambulance en route for us? He goes, what? I said, we'll explain when we land. I said, but we had quite the night. And it was
I love the fact that nobody else back at the base knows that what you guys just did.
There was no word. I mean, the radio, the base, the North Island air traffic controllers knew what was going on, but there was no thought of coordinating with our base that we had coming. I'm glad we did, because the base clinic was not aware that we were bringing them back, even though we did tell the traffic controllers were coming back. So we land, we shut down, and usually, on our flight line area, there's a certain way we park, but since they knew we had, some survivors on board from a mishap, we parked right in front of the hangar and shut down. The ambulance was there. So the ambulance crew comes out. I get the pilot and the radar operator out, give them a little pass down. It's funny. So whenever I watch The Guardian with my son, it kind of reminds me of when Ashton Kutcher was given the pass down to the ambulance crew of what was going on. I was like, I did that Navy style, got West on and everything. So both pilots had some minor back injuries, which is expected when you got miniature rockets shooting them out of a jet. So ambulance crew, they take them to Balboa Hospital. The whole night, the night crew from the squadron they're all at the hangar doors were open. They were all at the hangar doors from when we shut down. So we shut down, we grab our gear, we go walk in, and everybody's like, okay, what happened? So, everybody circled us, and it was just because our helicopter was not known for getting rescues. Again, because it's an older helicopter, it's a smaller helicopter, plus the fact that there were 2 other helicopters that were more capable of it. And I thought it was interesting because there was a Coast Guard helicopter coming from Coast Guard Air Station San Diego. They were en route, but they figured it'd be well over an hour before they would get there. And so ironically, listening to your podcast, that's roughly the time when rescue swimmers were really coming into play for you guys, the mid 80s.
Correct.
So
yeah, 1984 specifically, actually.
Yeah. So I didn't know that until I was listening to your podcast. So that's kind of interesting. So we had the whole discussion of what was going on, what happened and everything. That's when I had to do the search for my boots. I was about ready to give it up and write it off that my boot fell out the door during the but I had to go in the tunnel, do my post flight anyway. So I'll get everything out. We do our any maintenance issues, do all the paperwork. Everybody in the squadron is like, it was a big deal. Everybody's like clapping and, stuff like that. So back in the mid 80s, things were a little bit different then. I took my swimmer's harness because everything, even though I didn't go in the water, I had the salt water from them getting in the helicopter, and I didn't want to get corrosion on my harnesses and fittings and everything. So I'm like, what? I'm just going to bring my SAR bag home. After I shower, I'll throw it in the shower, rinse it off, and let it air dry,
Yeah.
Didn't matter that it had 2 Mark 13 flares in there, back in the day. Wasn't think about it, here I am leaving base with ordnance. Didn't even think about it. So my 2 roommates that were also crewmen at the same squadron, they saw my stuff sitting in the shower when they were getting ready for work, but it didn't dawn on them to wake me up to say, hey, what happened? So they get to work. Then they find out what happened. Then I get a phone call at home saying, dude, what the heck? I'm like, it was like 3:00 in the morning. I wasn't going to wake you guys up. They're like, you've lost your mind. Yeah.
I'd be upset if you didn't wake me up either. I'm just going to throw that out there. Come on, Harry.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. I mean, it was pretty neat. So, by the time I got up and, crew rest and everything, I go to work that afternoon, and the maintenance shop chief and our CO and XO, when we all walked in, everybody's sitting us down in the wardroom asking what happened and everything like that. So yeah, it was pretty cool. We were kind of like the local heroes there for a little while. It was pretty neat.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah,
you know what I'm really excited about is the fact that everybody was coming in, not only asking you what happened, but you have an opportunity, you and your crew get an opportunity to debrief everybody. So if it were ever happen again, you already know what's coming, and you already have that preemptive. Oh, well, this is what we did here. This is what we did here. That's awesome. You like, everybody wants to hear the story, but you're debriefing everybody and filling everybody in at the same time. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Harry.
Yeah. And like I said, because, we kind of had to do some things, things that we, how we planned it. So they had a little, crew training on, okay, well, what other things could we have done? And it worked out good. We, they talked about, well, did you think about leaving, night, because obviously back then the military, we were never on a first name basis. We would get some helicopter crews between the pilot and the crewman, while we're flying. It was a first name basis, but obviously, military protocol and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the discussion came up, would you leave them in the water? Then they, then from the crewman side, well, what things would we bring with us if we did leave us in the water and stuff? So one thing we did have in our helicopter, we did have a raft bag that had 4 life rafts, the good old LR1 life rafts. So
the LR1s. So you know what? Side note, footnote, I should say. I never actually had to use those. The LR1s, for everybody that doesn't know, and it's just a flat raft. It's almost like a little raft you would float down the river. Like it's flat. Yep. That's what you're talking about, right? And they are the worst in the freaking open ocean. They will make you sicker than shit in about 10 minutes. It is awful. But they are great for the river. You just got to duct tape the bottom of it and your money. Or if you duct tape the bottom, and then you can use it as like a sled going down the mountain. Sick.
Yeah.
Other than that.
the depot places that had the old ones and get some of those for some bobsledding type stuff. They would be good for that. So we
awesome.
got different, because I heard one of your swimmers say that they had the helicopter had to go refuel, so they were sitting in the water, and he said he wished he would have kept a life raft with him, that way he wasn't just floating in his dry suit. But so they talked about all the different things, what could be done, what could be done better, so it worked out good. It was so about a week later, the commanding officer from the squadron came down with a letter. He wanted to, congratulate the crew in person and stuff like that. And I'm not going to mention names, but we had a commanding officer that his words were, and certain things, even though I'm an older guy now, and this happened quite a while ago, certain things just stick with you. So they said that his comment was, well, Petty Officer Knight's job wasn't very important in the rescue. And my shop chief, who was a prior mechanic in an F-14 squadron, just kind of looked at me, and I could kind of tell he had that look like, Harry, don't say anything. So
come on, man.
We get, they did have their, back then the Navy had a tradition. If you rescue somebody, you get a bottle of liquor. So I did get a bottle of Bacardi rum, even though I wasn't of age yet. I still got my rum.
Excellent. And you did not open that until you turned of age. Of course not. Like, because that would not be the Navy way. Just gonna throw that out there.
I would never do that. It fermented for 2 more months until I turned 21. Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely.
What a way to celebrate your 21st birthday.
So it was pretty cool. It was funny because 2 days later, again, I'm a third class, and I think it was like a Friday. A couple of days after the rescue, I was the duty driver, and duty driver, like any other duty driver, one of the duties you have is when people fly into San Diego Airport, you go pick them up from the airport to bring them to the squadron. So we had this young YN who was arriving, and of course I was bragging about the rescue I just had 2 days ago. So, airport across the Coronado Bay Bridge, North Island, kind of bragging about myself.
You deserve to brag. Okay. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Like I said, they did an article first in the base paper and stuff like that. So the thing that I thought was that I also remember from it was that, we got the Navy Commendation Medal. And back then, as an air crewman, you didn't get your wings when you completed the training command. You get done with the training command, you get to the fleet, you have a PQS that you have to go through, which includes going over the helicopter. You have to be a plane captain. You have to be able to, do inspections on the helicopter in case you're going on, what we call cross country flights, or if you break down somewhere. So you had to do what we call the daily and turnaround. So you had to be a plane captain. You had to get all these qualifications. Then once you get your PQS book signed off, then you have to sit through a board, the grilling board on asking everything. So then after that, you get your aircrew wings. Wow. So now when guys finish the training command, they get their aircrew wings, not, and because that's how pilots do it. The Navy pilots, they get done with the training command, they got their wings of gold. So it took a while. There's a lot of senior enlisted leadership that were fighting for, like, hey, this is no different from what these guys do. Air crews should get their wings out of the training command as well. So I was on the ship. It was the Marvin Shields. We're going on a short cruise, getting ready for deployments. I'm a third class in the Navy, and this was before you had the National Defense Medal was back in play. So here I am, a third class, no air crew wings yet, but I had a Navy Commendation Medal ribbon on my uniform when we were manning the rails. And
I love it, dude. I love it.
So I will never forget this boatswain's mate chief, and I'm sure in the Coast Guard, it's just like the Navy. The boatswain's mate chiefs, they're the salty guys. They are the salty, crusty guys. He came up to me. He goes, hey, petty officer, what's with that ribbon? That's a pretty big medal you're wearing on your chest. You ain't got nothing else to sport. So our detachment senior chief, who was an air crewman, came over and talked to him. Chief, let me tell you what Petty Officer Knight here did to earn that green and white ribbon on his chest. So he gave him the consolidated version. And so when we got done, the boatswain mate chief says, wow, well done. So because it's not something you see every day. It's not something because the Navy it's up there. Granted, there's some medals and awards that are bigger, but it's up there for a third class to have with nothing else on his uniform. So I kind of chuckled. My senior chief.
I absolutely love that.
But
well deserved.
Yeah, so good. It was good. And the ironic thing is, you and me have been talking. I can remember that rescue like it was yesterday, even though it was a long time ago. I can remember it yesterday.
It's amazing what stands out to us in the realm of what we do. Those moments, those certain cases. And I was actually thinking about it not too long ago. Some of mine that I've done, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did have that, but it wasn't anything that really was a big deal. It was just something unique about it, and you're like, oh yeah. So
yeah.
But the big ones like this, you're like every fine detail, every minute. You can see the color in vivid detail.
Oh yeah,
I love it. Gosh,
I can remember the whole 9 yards. I mean, if somebody were to tell me, okay, give me step by step what happened, I think I could do it. So
I think you did a good job right now. Just throwing that up there to you.
I said it. It was my 20-year career was definitely the highlight because I told my recruiter, he goes, "What do you want to do in the Navy?" I said, "I want to fly helicopters. I want to be a rescue swimmer, and I want to get a rescue." Those were the 3 goals I had in the Navy.
Check.
Exactly. So within 3 years of me joining the Navy, my goals were completed. But I loved so when I first joined, I was what they called the TAR, temporary active reserve, where I had to do 3 years active duty, 3 years inactive duty. But I love flying in the helicopter. I mean, granted, the helicopter I was flying was old, but I'm sure you can relate. Yeah. There's nothing like sitting in that door flying around.
Oh, I mean, totally.
It's it's peace and quiet. When we were out at sea on deployment, the pilots used to go cloud surfing, just kind of go find the cloud and just go fly around. So the funny thing is, and matter of fact, it was a few months after my rescue, I was at the personnel office on base doing something, and I bumped into my recruiter. The guy who had me sign papers almost 4 years ago. He recognized me. I didn't recognize him. He goes, "Hey, you remember me?" I said, "No." He goes, "I was your recruiter back in Killeen, Texas." I said, "Oh yeah. So we're talking. He goes, first thing he said, he goes, "Did I lie to you about anything?" I said, "Nope." And I said, "You remember what my goals were?" He goes, "Yeah, you wanted to be a rescue swimmer, get a rescue." I said, "Guess what? 3 months ago, I got it." He goes, "No way." So we're sitting there, like I said, because he was an H-46 crewman. So we get done, doing what we're doing paperwork wise. And we sat outside the personnel office, and he asked me about it, so it was just neat, so even though I accomplished what I wanted, I decided, okay, I love flying helicopters. And like I said, I was going to go fly in the H-60s. Was almost fully qualified, getting ready to go to a fleet squadron that was just standing up. Going to get a desk job as a NATOPS guy. I had it made. Then my eyes went bad. I'm like, you know what? I'm at that 10-year mark. I've got it. I may as well finish it. So I got, had to sit and wait and had to wait for what we call the NAMI whammy. So in the Navy, you had the Navy medical review people. And if you had a medical issue, it could be hit or miss on whether you get to keep flying or not. So it was always the NAMI whammy, we called it, because either you're going to make it or you're going to get stuck doing something yet you don't want to do. You have to change rates and stuff. So I was able to get a waiver to go to the patrol plane, the P3 patrol plane, and finish my career. I mean, it wasn't the same from the helicopter days, but I got to finish, flying in the Navy. So I enjoyed it.
Oh, Harry, that is awesome. What a great story, career. Ah, man, I'm jonesing right now. This is awesome.
It was good stuff.
Oh, Harry. All right. So, yeah, hey, you know how I finish this off, man. I'm going to open it up to you. Any advice that you would give the younger generation or anything like that? I mean, what do you got?
Some of the things like, you and me chatted about some is, it's the brotherhood, whether you're a Coast Guard swimmer, male or female, Navy swimmer, male or female. Because in my day, there was only male rescue swimmers. Well, now there's plenty of females, and I'm all about it. Because you were talking to the one, I can't remember her name, but she first one who made female chief as a rescue swimmer. You just talked to her the other day.
Jody Williams.
It's like, yeah,
so
if you can do
amazing,
do it.
Yeah.
More power to it. When I was in the Navy, when I flew in helicopters, they had the first female helicopter pilot came around. because, we're talking again, early 80s. Dating myself. I know you weren't around this earth yet, but,
I was at least around. Okay. I wasn't service yet.
So, it's a brotherhood, regardless of what platform you're in or what branch of the service you're in. We call each other brothers. And again, it's combined male and female because, for somebody who decides that they want to take on the career of jumping out of a perfectly good helicopter to help somebody, that takes a special person. Not everybody can do it. Like even now in the Navy, the rescue swimmers are actually considered a warfare specialty. They're not quite the Navy SEALs, but to get into that program, they treat it like that now. You have to be pre-qualified before you even sign up for those. You have to do everything. So my day, if I did good in the water and air crew school, yeah, okay, you can be a rescue swimmer. Now before you sign the papers, you got to qualify, and then if you don't make it through the rescue swimmer school, guess what? You're fair game for wherever the Navy needs a body, and it's you not good. So they are considered a warfare specialty now. They actually had a down in Pensacola, the Naval Museum, they had an H-2 that was being repainted, and they had a big dedication ceremony a couple of years ago. So a lot of us old guys that were there, we got to go through the rescue swimmer school, which has been replaced because of the hurricane several years ago. But we did a tour of the school, and the way they've got it set up from back in my day is night and day. Half the school, part of the school is a classroom. Half of it, a good chunk of it's a pool. In my day, to simulate nighttime rescue training, you had an instructor up on the tower with a water hose spraying water on you. Well, now they've got all the stuff that's able to, make it realistic, choppy waves, nighttime lightning, the whole 9 yards. Then they had a big weight room because that's, obviously the fitness factor. You've got to be fit to be able to do the job. Right. So it was neat to see how the Navy has transitioned to make sure their people are better prepared to do that job, because it's a tough job. So when we call each other brothers, there's a reason for it. Yeah. Because we know it takes a special person to do that. Because again, not everybody wants to jump out of a perfectly good helicopter. And like you said, you're going. Yeah, it is. And you're going in the water to save somebody you don't know, whether it's a military person, it's somebody from a hurricane, from disaster, whatever the case may be. It's like your statement says, when that SAR alarm goes off, they're expecting a miracle. They're getting you. Yeah. So you've got to be ready for it. And so it takes a special person to do that. And so those that have been around, they can relate. Those that are new to this, they might be listening to it. You're a special breed. Take pride in the fact that you're a special breed. Hold your head up high. Don't go walking around like you deserve to be on a pedestal, but know, in the background, you deserve to be on a pedestal because you're there to save somebody. It's a hard job. Listening to some of your podcasts you've had recently, I remember there was a guy, they were doing a search for a young kid at a lake, and they didn't want to give up. The grandfather was, they were trying to hold the grandfather back. And the guy says that he can remember when that kid was brought out of the pond, that he remembers seeing his arm and his red hair, if I recall correctly.
Mike Odell. Great episode. Yeah.
So there are times that there is going to be things that are going to hit you with what you do. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think he said in the podcast, it takes a strong man or woman to know that you need the help, because PTSD is no joke. Whether you're a rescue swimmer, the Army or Marines that are out there that are doing the stuff, if you need help, man, get the help you need. Don't let it take you down, because it's hard. It's hard. I got, when I was stationed in Southern Maryland, for my first time on shore duty, some of the squadron I was in is where they did all the testing for the different tactics for tracking submarines. So you had patrol plane people, you had helicopter people and stuff. So there were helicopter guys that knew me from my helicopter days. So like, hey, Harry, man, we're all part of the rescue squad out here. You got to join, man. They pay for the training for EMT. They pay for you to drive an ambulance and stuff like that. It's good training. There's some benefits. Come join us at the rescue squad. So I joined the rescue squad, got my EMT training and stuff like that. And because I know one of your guys was talking about, how, you were talking to one of the guys who was a firefighter type guy. And it's the same thing, so I can relate, the first time that I responded to an accident and you had kids in there.
Yeah.
I've got kids, I've been kids now. So it's an emotional thing. We have a job to do. And afterwards, luckily the county that I'm in, they do have a good support team. From when they have certain calls, they automatically dispatch the crisis response team. So people can sit down and talk about it. Unfortunately, in the firefighter world, there's a lot of guys that feel they don't need to talk about it. They're, because you're a firefighter, you're a man, you don't need this. No, don't. Whether you're a rescue swimmer, because you get people from across the board that do your podcast. So I know there's people that are across the board that are listening. So whether you're a rescue swimmer in the Coast Guard, Navy, you're a parajumper in the Air Force, a firefighter, EMT, a law enforcement, police officer, if things happen, man, there's support there. Get the support you need. Don't hold those things in, because I have known people that couldn't handle it and they've taken their own lives because they didn't think they needed the help. And unfortunately, not reaching out for the help they needed took a toll on them, very sadly.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't think you're too man enough or too tough enough to get help that you need, because we see things that we don't want to see. We do CPR on people that sometimes we get lucky and they make it. Sometimes we get to that golden time and we're like, we've done everything we can. And, in Maryland as an EMT, we have a certain protocol that after a certain amount of time, if the AED doesn't do anything, we know we've done what we can. And the hardest part is going to that family member to say, hey, we've done everything we can. I'm very sorry for your loss. There's nothing we can do. The first time, in Maryland, that person in our EMT stuff they're called the family advocate.
Yep.
And that's the toughest job there is. We went on a CPR call one time. Our EMS chief showed up, and while I'm doing compressions, he's like, Harry, what do you need? I said, we need a family advocate. And I remember looking at his face, he's like, oh man, because that's the tough job. But, again, knowing that we've done everything we can and being able to relate that to the family out of respect to them, it's tough. And those are the times where, again, if you need help, get the help you need. There's resources, there's 800 numbers. Quinn, you can have my number. If there's anybody out there, call me. I don't care. I don't care what time of day is. I tell guys in my firehouse, if you've got a tough time, here's my number. Call me.
Yeah.
Because you call me, then I get a phone call saying, hey, apparently Joey couldn't take it anymore and he left a note, and he was just too stressed about this particular incident and stuff like that. My son, who's soon to be 20, I'm very proud of him. He's going through the Stafford Fire Academy in Virginia. I remember the first call he ran at my fire department, which is a fatality in a truck. It hit him hard. He had run calls where there were CPR calls, having somebody pass away from a medical incident versus a trauma incident is very different. So it affected him, he reached out to me and some other people from the department for some help, and
Awesome.
I give him respect for that. And him looking at it as a career now, he knows there's resources there. So, I don't mean for the podcast to sound all down and out, but
no, not at all. Not at all.
It's something that people need to be aware of. And then going back to the brotherhood, I've got friends of mine from my helicopter days from back in the 80s that I keep in touch with. There's one guy, Pete Cover. So Pete, if you're listening,
come on, Pete, you've been called out.
I still remember his home phone number from back in the day, but we had good brotherhood, and some of your guys have talked about it. The shop that I had when I was in HSL 385 North Island, we had a good shop. We were very close. We were the guys that we would go down out on the bay, water skiing on the weekends, and not to mention it, but Pete's boat caught on fire. The engine caught on fire. We're like, man, we're out here. We want to water ski. So we had this one guy who had a Chevy pickup truck. So we hooked up the ski rope to his pickup truck, and we were water skiing along the shoreline from his pickup truck just south of where the Navy SEALs do their training. We're like, man, we're out here to have some fun. We're going to have some fun.
Oh my gosh. Boat gets on fire. Next best option, truck.
Yeah, it worked. You got to have a good time. So, those are the guys that, you want to keep in touch with. I mean, I could name tons of guys from my days back in the 80s. And if they're listening, they know who they are. They're the guys that I can send them a message or chat. We'll talk about something from back in the day, and we pick up like it was yesterday.
I love it.
So, those are the guys that you want to keep close at heart. And those are the guys, if you need the help, or girls, they're the ones you can count on.
Absolutely.
Because they've been in your shoes. But yeah, so it's just, don't be afraid to ask for help, man, and keep that brotherhood tight. Whether it's Navy, Coast Guard, we all had the same mission. We all had the same purpose, to go save somebody. So it's, when you've been talking to the guys in the Netherlands and stuff, brothers, it's the same thing. We all come from a special mold.
Yeah.
So we're all brothers, because of what we do. So for those that are actively out there doing it still, man, good on you. I hope you guys stay safe. Do what you do. And just keep making, whether it's the Coast Guard or the Navy doing the rescue, or the folks that are abroad. Like I said, you've got people all over the country listening. Keep doing what you're doing, because you do it for a reason, and there's a passion. And we, as we say, a lot of us are adrenaline junkies. That's why we do it. But enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's definitely, it's something worthwhile. And it's something that you can value, knowing going on in life that you've made a difference in other people's lives. So it's, be proud of what you do and just keep it going.
Harry, you are the man. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of this knowledge. I love it. The story, the case, it was amazing.
Yep.
Man, I look forward to the day you and I get to meet up. All right. Maybe, you know what? If we set it up right, maybe it'll be an Orioles Red Sox game.
That's what I was gonna say, man. If you're in town, I know you'd be sporting the red, and I ain't gonna lie. In Camden Yards, when the Red Sox are in town, there's more red in the stadium than there is orange. I ain't gonna lie one bit. I went to a Red Sox game one time at Camden Yards. I was like, "Am I in Boston? I don't see the green monster."
Yeah, come on.
But
Red Sox Nation.
Well, the Red Sox fans, so I said, I'm originally from Baltimore, so I'm an Orioles fan, because that's, we were talking about it. That's what I grew up with my dad watching. Boog Powell, Jim Palmer, Eddie Murphy, all those guys from back in the day. But the ironic thing is, when it comes to the football side of the house, I'm a diehard Steelers fan.
Oh, so we still don't like each other. That's fine. we haven't hit like one thing yet. So you went Navy, no. Hey, Orioles, no. Steelers, no.
But hey, we got the rescue swimmer brotherhood. So that
you know what? I'm good with that. Trumped it.
Seriously. If you're ever in Baltimore for a Red Sox game, man, look me up, man. It'd be great to sit down, have a beer, and chat in person, man. I would
absolutely love it. So, Harry, again, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I absolutely look forward to the time we get to sit down, for sure.
I appreciate it.
All right, man.
We've had a lot of said it, man. I love this podcast. I listened to it. Like I told you, I realized I missed like 20 of them. I was like, man, this ain't cool. This ain't the ending of Yellowstone season. I missed stuff. So I'm back there. But it's great listening. It helps us old guys, go back down memory lane and just listening to what everybody does. So like everybody else has said, I think what you do, you're taking the time out of you to do this. I think it's awesome, man. So Quinny, I appreciate it. I appreciate you, brother, and just keep doing what you're doing, man, and stay safe. All right.
Roger that. Well, thank you, sir. And I'll catch you later. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here. Go. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Real ResQ Podcast. Please take a minute to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. I'm pulling chocks and taking off. But before I go, if anyone out there has a rescue story they would be willing to share, I would be humbled and honored to have you on as a guest. Or if you have any questions about rescue or anything else we talk about here, send an email to jason@therealresq.com. That's Jason at TheRealResQ.com. You can also check us out on our web pages, therealresq.com, our Facebook page, and our Instagram page at The Real Rescue. Again, a special thank you to all of you staying on the watch today. Always remember, when that SAR alarm goes off, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. Until next time, fly safe and swim hard.